It feels a lot like your soul is very peaceful. It's come here to experience a lot of peace. You're supposed to find peace even in the chaos. There are mirroring things in this life from that past life that you've come to heal with this person.
You're strong. You can even, pull yourself up without even having your feet touch anything.
I find that even in your current life right now, it's still important for you to use your voice.
What I'm getting is that you want a love that you can contribute to. You're asking for like platinum, so you can't accept the copper when it shows up, even though it's pretty too.
You are being pushed outside your comfort zone to seek new heights.
And you are true to yourself and you're true to others around you as you live your authentic life. You are just you, and that is all you need to open up. We need you to speak your truth, Katrina.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, big shout out to everybody who is listening to this today. Today is the day I get to talk about something that I thought I was going to write a book about at some point. It's about a person who played a huge role in my growth and development and spiritual awakening and healing and blah fucking blah. If you follow my TikTok, kids, you guys will know that I was recently reached out to by a woman we were basically in love with the same man. And obviously, so to give a little backstory, I'm going to kind of go into the story here, but just briefly, I ended my relationship with this man in July of 2021. There were my intuition, we're going to get into this in the story, but basically he made moves that made it so that I was no longer able to pretend that he was the man that I thought that he was. So I moved on. It put me on a path of healing, specifically inner child healing, and I engaged with other people and met other soulmates and learned other lessons and had other experiences. But I held this relationship on a pedestal that I now know it no longer belongs on. So today we're going to try to get to this story. And the reason why I want to tell this story is because there's a lot of things that happened here that we tend to ignore. I feel like I definitely ignored some things that I shouldn't have ignored. And there was things that I want to warn people about, like spiritual manipulation, people who use spirituality and psychedelics as a way to bond you to them, as a way to create a fake level of attachment to them so that you'll be loyal to them, so that you'll love them, so that you will hold them on this pedestal that they are not deserving of. So, yeah, all right. I'm going to put this on Do Not Disturb because this is going to distract me. And I want to start from the beginning because I really, 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 really want to tell this story. So back in 2018, I got a divorce from my ex-husband. And I'm just chilling in my room, watching TV, and I decide I'm going to watch this show on Netflix that was about Tinder, right? I wasn't exposed to Tinder. I'd heard about it, but, wasn't something that I was playing around with because I was married. So I turn on this movie, and it shows this woman in a coffee shop, and she's going through Tinder, and she's like swiping left. Then she would swipe right. I speak English, and all of a sudden it was like sexy, and I was like, oh, is that what Tinder is? Is that what Tinder is? So a little background, but in my marriage, the sexual connection had been lost for a while, and so I was definitely wanting to kind of get out there and play around and, just kind of explore because, I'd been with my now ex-husband for off and on 12 years. So I got on Tinder and I connected with 6 people, and this gentleman was one of them. I kind of feel like we should just say his name now because this is like getting way bigger than just, Nita and I. Anyway, I digress. So I connect with this man on Tinder. We're chatting, going back and forth a bit. It's kind of a dry conversation, but I'm going to be honest with you. He was so hot, y'all, that I just wanted to fuck him. I really did. I thought that looked like a fun playground to play on, and you can't take a guy that hot seriously, because a guy that hot, he's gonna have a roster. You already know women are gonna be lined up. If you, because I always told my sister this, look, if you're dating a guy and he's so hot that you will just give it up to him, you got to understand that every other woman is on the same fucking page. And you got to, if you're going to be serious about this guy, you got to hope that he is strong enough, or, committed enough or loyal enough that he's going to turn down the copious amounts of vagina that are going to be thrown his way. So eventually, it took months of, chatting with him. We decided we were going to link up, because I was just straight up honest. I was like, look, man, I really just want to know how it feels to sit on your lap. I was really straight up with them, right? So he's like, okay, whatever. We set up a date. He flakes on me the first time. So I'm like, okay. Not surprised. But I honestly just figured he wanted to hang out with somebody that was hotter, because at this time I had low self-esteem. I was chunky. I had been, I had a history of like sexual assault and, just childhood trauma and a lot of stuff. And I was in a place in my life where I would intentionally try to look ugly. I wanted to detract men. Is that a word, detract? I wanted to repel men. I didn't want men to be drawn to me, because I had situations where I'd be like on the fucking train reading a book and some guy would, So I always considered my beauty to be a curse at this point in my life. And so I was intentionally trying to not be beautiful. I feel like he knew that. Anyway, it's fine. So, I chalked it up to him wanting to see someone else, whatever. So we made other plans. I was supposed to go over there to his house at like 9 o'clock at night. It's so bad, you guys. I see the fucking red flags here, but bear with me. So at that time, I ran a business, and I was also, I think I might have still been working for the county. No, I quit working when I had Jaden, and Jaden was about 2 at this time. So I had a lot of free time, I guess. So let's see. But my sleep schedule, that was the point. I was used to going to bed pretty early. I've always been an early riser. I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning every day. It's just, I don't need an alarm for that. It's just how I am. So I go to bed pretty early. So this 9 o'clock was kind of like really pushing it for me. So then he texts me about an hour to 9, and he's like, yeah, it's going to be closer to 11. I'm stuck in Huntington Beach. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, all right, I got to get a fucking nap in. Get a nap, set the alarm, whatever. Go over to this man's house. I get there, and I swear to God, I didn't even see his face the first time we hung out. I was so intimidated by him, I couldn't even look at his face. He invites me in, he sits me on the couch, and he goes over, to his little bar area. And this is before I knew I was psychic, guys. I knew I could feel everything, but I didn't understand how real the impressions that I were getting was, and that it was my guides and angels. I had no idea. I have this whole team and we all have this whole team of spiritual people that are our fucking homies on the other side, who look out for us, that are whispering shit to us. So I'm a clairvoyant. They give me an image of women, just a bunch of them, like a Rolodex. And it's a bunch of different beautiful women just like flipping through my mind. I could feel these women sitting in the same spot where I was, him in the same spot, taking in our energy, sussing us out, so to speak, So he comes over and he sits next to me, and he wants to get me high. I don't really smoke weed at this time, you guys. Like, I may hit the blunt. I could have a blunt last me like a whole week, because I would just take a couple of hits, pass the fuck out. This was all I needed. Wasn't a super big butt head at the time. So, of course, he comes with a fucking bong, okay, which is like, I hit the bong, choke my ass off, and I thought I was going to die. Like, no bullshit. I was like, I'm going to fucking die in the mountains on this man's fucking couch that I still have not even been able to look him in the face, and I'm about to fucking die. So after choking to death, I started feeling tired, and I literally ended up passing out on his couch. I was trying so hard to stay awake, and to be fair, he was being patient. He was kind of trying to like start conversation, and what was happening was, because I was so fucking high and so tired, he'd ask me a question. He asked me something about my business. So he was like, I think it was like, how do you advertise or something? He was just trying to be polite and make conversation, and I just said Google. And then in my mind, I continued having that conversation with him, but I was so inebriated that I couldn't function. So I ended up falling asleep about 1 o'clock in the morning. Mind you, I get there at like 11. So 1 o'clock in the morning, he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to bed now. You should probably go. And I'm like, okay, like I get it, right? I get that, I was being all flirty. And I also had warned him, I'm really, really shy. And I am. So I was like really shy and really intimidated, but I'm like, okay, so I get out the car. I leave and I hop in my car and I drive back home, and I almost die. I could barely stay awake on the drive home. If you guys have ever drove up into the mountains, you know that the roads are windy and there's dark ordinances. There's not a lot of street lights. Can't see shit, you know? And I almost passed out and died a couple of times. So when I got home the next day, I was disgusted. I was fucking grossed out. I was like, what kind of fucking human? Any other kind-hearted, you know, person who gave a fuck about anybody else's existence outside their own would have put a blanket on me and been like, God damn it, you know, but they wouldn't have made me leave at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm clearly so this was a huge, now in retrospect, a huge red flag. And honestly, it bothered me then too. I still wanted to fuck him, and I was embarrassed for how I showed up, but I was also like, what kind of fucking sociopath sends a single woman with kids home in a fucking Honda Odyssey, like driving down the mountain at 1 o'clock in the morning after they just got her eye and can see that she can't even fucking function. Like, but my desire to experience that body trumped that. And I reached back out to him and was like, listen, I'm embarrassed for the way I showed up. If what transpired would have reflected, you know, my energy towards you at all, I could walk away and be fine, but it didn't. And so I'm hoping that you give me another chance to, you know, hang out. And of course he was like, okay, you know, whatever. It's not going to be a waste of my time this time. You know, he joked. So I go back. I can't remember how long the time was. I'm really bad with time, you guys. And, and so I go back. He asked me to wear lingerie, so I wear lingerie. This was a huge deal for me because I don't know how much fun to speak. I'm just going to say it. So my ex-husband wanted me to wear lingerie, but I kind of refused for him because he would make me feel bad about my body, right? Like, you know, up until that point, I had primarily dated black men. I have the body of a white woman. And so I'd get shit a lot from black men, like, oh, you're this and you're too skinny and blah, 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 blah. And so I didn't particularly feel super confident in my body. But this man asked me and I was like, you know what, fuck it. Let's see what happens. He's into lingerie. Could be right? Whatever. Bought a little bodysuit, you know, show up over there. Now this time I get there and all the lights are dimmed. He opens the door, the mattress is on the living room floor and there are tea lit candles all over the place, all on his thing. It's really beautiful. And I sit down on the couch and he's like, don't read too much into the candles. You know, I do it for my own peace or some dumb shit. He wanted to really let me know that I wasn't important, even though he'd clearly gone through all this trouble, you know, when I was coming over, you know, So we sit there and he starts going on this tangent about acid. A little background about me. My mother was a drug addict. She struggled with dealing with mostly methamphetamines, but there was also cocaine and, you know, PCP and, you know. So I had associated all drugs, even psychedelics, to just basically be crack. So he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, and you get all this therapy and it's so amazing, you know, oh my God. And he's like talking and I'm like, he's giving like major Orange County white guy vibes, like very sense of entitled, very self-important, you know, and he's going on, he's talking about this spiritual shit with respect to psychedelics. And I'm just sitting there, all I'm hearing is this guy, this is specifically what I remember thinking. Two things. One, this guy's lucky he's hot because this is fucking boring. Two, that was the most profound pitch that I've ever heard for someone to try to encourage someone to do drugs. You know, like, wow, he's really into this, you know, whatever. Eventually, we got to the point, you know, where I take off my clothes. Now, I make love to this dude. And I want to say make love because that's what the fuck it felt like. I was blown away. I was intimate with this man. And as it was happening, I was like, oh my God. It feels like we've loved each other for a really, really long time. I remember rolling over at one point. He's like behind me, and my face was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like I'm trying to process. I'm like, I did not see that coming. Why does it feel like this? Like I've never felt this before. Like, So, in the middle of us having our little sex sessions and eating blueberries, you know, he's like telling me about how, we were talking about, you know, the fact that both of us were recently divorced. He was married 10 years, 4 kids. I was married, you know, not that long, 4 kids, 5, including my chosen daughter, my stepdaughter. And, you know, we talked about what it was like. Like I told him, I was like, look, man, I'm just in a place where I'm just looking for like a sex partner, somebody that like wants to have fun. And then, because at the time, okay, so to give you a frame of point in my mind at the time, my marriage had just ended and I kind of had given up on love. I kind of had felt like, you know what? I'm learning more about myself, and I'm this dynamic individual, and I want to do all these things. And so I think I'm probably not going to find one person who's into all this. I'm going to have to like piecemeal it, right? I'm going to have to find my sex guy. I'm going to have to find my snowboarding guy. I'm going to have to find my hiking guy, my camping guy, because I couldn't find anyone up until that point. I hadn't even looked that long. But, you know, we draw conclusions in our mind because we think we're smart. And so I was telling him, I was like, look, man, I was like, everybody falls in love with me. Everybody wants me to have their fucking kids. I was like, and he was like, me too. And so we start talking about how we try to see people casually and they take things serious. Then we discovered that we're both the same, you know, star sign, same rising sign. And I really was like, oh my God, I found my sex guy, because this guy gets it. This guy knows that we can engage and have these kind of experiences without taking it further, without going too far, right? Without the need to whatever. I was like, he's going to understand me because it happens to him too. So I was like, cool, you know, we'll just whatever. So again, more sex, blah, 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 more feelings of deep love that were just inexplicable. Like the level of love that was like being conveyed through this energy with him was just like, I described it to my sisters as like pure love, like the love of God, like this white, all encompassing, you know, just expansive, just like, whoa, what the fuck, right? So whatever, we spend the night together, and the next morning I gotta go because I want to get back home before my kids wake up, you know, and went and got some donuts, which is like such a hoe move. My mom used to do that when she would stay out all night, and I'm so embarrassed to admit it, but I was like, I'll just bring donuts, so that way when you come home, your kids aren't like, Mom, where were you? You know, you're like, oh no, I just ran out to get donuts, you know? So I go and get donuts, and as I'm driving down the mountain, I go to call my sister, and I was like, Lena, I don't know what the fuck just happened, but like, it just felt like we'd loved each other for a really long time. And that was it. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm going to fall in love with this man. I'm like, I need to, I was like, no. This is not going to work, because him and I had a discussion. Now, if you guys know Sagittarians, generally speaking, the more evolved of us are very straightforward. We're going to tell you what we mean, and we're going to mean what the fuck we say. And since him and I had that conversation of people falling in love with us, and we were both just divorced, just trying to have a good time, you know, I sent him a message, and I literally was like, listen, I was like, I can't see you again. I was like, I have a feeling that I'm going to fall in love with you, and I know that's not what either one of us are looking for. And he was like, okay. And I was like, okay. And we went our separate ways. I was seeing somebody else, and actually decided to move forward with that relationship with that man. We ended up planning on moving to Arizona. So as we're getting ready to move to Arizona, now the relationship with the man that I was with, that was not this guy, it was polyamorous. We were in a polyamorous relationship. Remember, I just, you know, got divorced, and I was exploring and just, you know, trying to see what was out there. So him and I decide we're going to move to Arizona, and I get I decide I'm going to reach out to this guy again to have sex with him one more time before I go. So I message him, and I'm like, hey, it's Trina. I know it's been months, but I'm going to move to Arizona. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to have sex with me one more time before I leave. And he messaged me back, and he was like, yeah, sure. You know, come over and blah, 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 blah. And so I go over this time, and this time this guy puts me on the couch. He can kind of, I can't remember exactly what happened, but he was like reading into my situation and reading into what was going on. I didn't know at the time that he was psychic, right? But I was like, oh my God, this guy like really gets me. You know, he really understands me. And he was talking about stuff, and, you know, he was like trying to kind of, you know, hold honor for this other guy I was saying. You know, he was like, gosh, man, well, you know, does he know, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, you know, it is what it is, whatever. He's like, man, he's like, I mean, I just felt bad because I know he loves you. He's like, I mean, I'm still going to fuck you, but, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't know why you feel bad. Like, this dude has this and this, whatever, right? So whatever. I ended up crying that night, because the things that he said to me, and I can't remember what they are, I'm going to be honest with you. It's been such a long time. And honestly, when I left him 2 years ago, I was done with this dude. I had actually decided I was never going to bring him up again. Well, I would go back and forth on this, right? Because part of me was like, oh, I have to honor this relationship. I have to honor what he did. He changed my life, blah, fucking blah. And then the other part of me was like, fuck him. He doesn't deserve any more of my fucking energy, because I'd seen who he was by this time. At least I thought I did. So this begins so that particular experience, whatever, I ended up moving out to Arizona. I told the guy that I was with about this guy. He fucking knew, so much to the point, like, because you guys, I'm a fucking asshole, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Well, yeah, it kind of is. I'm Sagittarius. I'm going to tell you the fucking truth. So I told this dude, I was like, look, if that man calls me and wants to fuck, I'm not going to tell him no. Straight the fuck up. I'm just not, because it was amazing, right? Why not? Like, you're open, we're doing our thing, whatever, like, whatever. So when I was living in Arizona, I would come out to California because I owned a business out here. My kids still lived out here. My 2 younger kids had moved to Arizona with me, and I would make sure to drive them out here every other weekend so that they could have time with their dad, because their dad's relationship obviously was very important. And even though I moved, I was not going to compromise that, and I was not going to, like, me and him literally would meet in Blythe if I didn't have a wedding. If I had a wedding, I would drive them all the way there, and, like, stuff stayed, honorable with me and my ex-husband with regards to our kids. And as I would go out there, sometimes I would go and see this man. And so things got really gross with the guy that I was with, just toxic as fuck. And we ended up going our separate ways. I moved back out to California. And I'd hit him up and told him I was moving back out to California. And he joked, like, thanks for leaving your boyfriend for me, which I did not do. I left him because he sucked. And we just weren't a good match for whatever those reasons were. He was a cool dude. I shouldn't say he sucked, but there were certain areas where he fucking sucked, and it was not for me. So I moved back out to California, and I started seeing this man a little more regularly. Now, I would say probably like the 5th time. In the first 5 times I saw him, my guides and angels were going hard on me. I remember one morning waking up laying next to him, and I looked at him, and they're like, I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know it was them at the time, because, again, I hadn't had my spiritual awakening yet. They're like, he's fun, but he's not for you. He's fun, but this is not for you. This is not the one, And I'm like, I don't know, man. He's a lot like me, and he really sees me, and, like, I feel like this might be the one. Like, how could this not be the one? I mean, he's amazing, and he sees me, and, he understands me, and he understands, like, my journey and my pain, and he's introduced me to all these spiritual concepts. He also gave me psychedelics without my permission, so let's talk about that. So one day I come over to his house. His energy's so weird. And he has, the mattress in the living room. And I go over. He's sitting across, underneath his whatever, island area, whatever that shit's called, on the floor. And I go over to him to hug him, to greet him, because I just walked in. And he just breaks down into tears. And I was thinking, I was thinking, whatever this man has, I need, right? And whatever this man has, I need. No, that's not what I meant. As I was hugging him, I was thinking, whatever this man needs, I have. And that came from this inner knowing of sometimes the universe would send me people who I could be of service to. And I thought, okay, so this must be one of these people that I can help. Again, no spiritual awakening, just kind of like my own inner knowing or whatever. So when he's done crying, he pulls back and starts talking shit about my feet. Like, you have big feet, and like, and I quickly realized that his ego was hurt because he had just been vulnerable. And so now he had to reestablish domination by being shitty to me, and he was. And then he was like, do you trust me? Do you trust me? And I was thinking, no. But I'm like, what do you mean? Like, trust me with my kids, or like, trust me with what we're going to eat? Like, what do you mean? He's like, put this in your mouth. And he's like, go ahead. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know what the fuck this shit was, y'all. Put some fucking piece of paper in my mouth. And about an hour later, I saw God. Turns out he had given me LSD. Everything in the world, became alive. The fibers in the fucking carpet, There was earth blooming around him, and sun, and a lion's mane, and all these beautiful things were like framing him. And he was sitting on the table. He made me watch this stupid fucking video about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was like, why are we doing this? Like, literally, I came here to have sex, and you're crying, and now you're playing me this thing, and you put this shit in my mouth, and I'm just sitting on the fucking floor on this mattress, just like, what the fuck, right? Didn't say any of that, though, right? Because I'm like, my whole thought process with regards to him was like, okay, he's used to having hot women who are just going to do whatever they want, so I just better fall in line. Otherwise, I'm not going to, get to spend time with him and, feel his energy, whatever. So as he's sitting on the bar stool at the end of the thing, he just starts levitating, and all these golden lights are just coming out of his body, and it was like the most amazing fucking feeling. If you've ever done LSD or psychedelics, you know that it thins the veil, and it gives you that oneness energy. And unfortunately, if you're not really educated about these things, you tend to make conclusions about the people that are around you while you do these drugs. You know, like, oh my God, our souls are intertwined and we're going to be together forever and blah, blah, blah. And this is so meaningful and blah, 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 blah. But this is just the effect of the drugs, guys. This is the energy of the universe when we're not in spirit form. But I didn't know this. I had no fucking clue. So I was just thinking like, oh my God, this is so life-changing. You know, I went home and told my kids and my family and, you know, my sister's like, you guys got to experience. This is so amazing. And so during this or the next session we hung out, he ended up giving me ecstasy. And if you've ever done ecstasy, it's the same thing. You end up feeling these bonds with people, you know, with the person that you're with when you're doing them, and you feel closer to them and all this connectedness, and it was all horse shit. But I remember he was like, let me put a no trespassing sign on your pussy or whatever. And I'm like, because I'm just thinking, you know, this guy is hot and he's used to girls telling him whatever he wants. I'm not thinking he's serious because we're not seeing each other regularly at all. This is very sporadic. We're not talking all deeply and connectedly. He's not giving me the energy of somebody who truly wants to be a partner in my life at all. It's kind of just like, hey, you're on the roster. You get your appointment when you get your fucking appointment, and it's going to be amazing when you have your appointment, you know? So I proceed, you know, living my life as a single woman because I didn't take him fucking seriously. And I was out with some other guy, and he messages me while I'm out with this guy. He's like, I feel like you fucked somebody else. My guides and angels are telling me that you, and I was like, well, yeah, actually, you're right. You know, I'm with this dude right now. And he's like, how could you? And he made it all like he was so hurt and so violated, and I burned him, and he saw me as the future mother of his children, and this was supposed to be so much more, and just all this shit to where I was like, oh my God, oh, I misread the situation. This man really loves me. Oh my God. Like, I was so devastated. I felt so bad. I felt like I had just, you know, ripped this poor man's heart from his chest, that, you know, he really loved me, and, you know, and this was really something real that we were building together, and blah, blah, and it fucking wasn't. I digress. So I'm stuck in this kind of energy, and I feel bad, but also, you know, I'm a Sag, right, you guys? So, like, when I fuck up, I fuck up. It is what it is. There's not a whole lot you could do about it, and you just got to move on, you know? So I was like, all right, well, shit, that sucks. I felt bad. You know, I'm sure I wrote him letters begging for him back, trying to express the way I felt, and blah, fucking blah. I can probably look them up because I have not deleted anything. Thank God I have not deleted any of the emails that him and I exchanged. So, I digress. So a few months later, a few months goes by, I'm living in the same area he's living in because back in 2014, I really wanted to move up into the mountains. My ex-husband at the time told me, if you move up to the mountains, you're going to move by yourself. I found a gorgeous 3-story home up here, $150,000 on Manzanita fucking Drive. Now my fucking ex-husband now lives on Manzanita, except it's down the mountain, but still, like, there's a little salt there because I wish I would have bought that house. I would have been Gucci if I'd have bought that house. I ended up buying a house in Riverside for $100,000 more than the bigger house I could have gotten here in the mountains where I truly wanted to be. So anyway, I ended up moving up there. Of course, he makes it all about him. Like, oh, you just want to be close to me, you know, whatever. I was like, sure, we'll go with that. And so we begin on, you know, this little sojourn of, you know, connecting and hanging out more. And you know, because he reached out to me again and tried to act like, you know, oh, you know, he said something like, man, there's just nothing I'm going to be able to do about the fact that I'm never going to be able to stop loving you, is what he told me, you know, about the cheating that I still to this day don't consider cheating, because he was not giving me what I need. Like, I'm used to, like, if you want to be in a relationship with me, you're going to swoop me up. We're going to be doing things together. We're going to be going places together. You're going to want me around as much as fucking possible because I'm a cool ass person. And that's just what I've been experienced. Has been my experience in dating, you know, throughout my life. So I was like, this is weird. Like, whatever you're doing is like a game because you're not showing up for me in the way other people have showed up for me, right? So get back together, whatever. So we begin this little sojourn of what I thought, you know, was a little bit more seriousness. And I start being a little bit more serious and not seeing other people. But I'm going crazy, you guys, because he's only seeing me like once every 2 weeks. And I am an emotionally and physically needy person. Like, if I'm in a relationship, So what I've learned since this experience is that, like, for me, love is me being able to love a person with all of me, meaning my body and my mind and my money and my energy and like all the creative, beautiful ways that I can show up for the person in my life. Like, that's my highest honor, to be able to give that to somebody who's deserving of it. And so I thought that this man was that man. And so, you know, I'm trying to love him in all these different ways. It's so irritating. It's like so angering, or it's so like just agitating for me to talk about this, because I was going to write a book about this. I was going to write a book like I met my soulmate on Tinder and blah, 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 and just all this beauty and whatever. But now I just see that I was just being manipulated. And there are so many more women out there that have this exact same fucking story that I have. Except I think that some of them were a little bit more open to him. Like, you hear the way I'm kind of like, you know, at certain areas of him, because I'm older. He told me I was probably one of the oldest women he's dated, right? Which I was a month older than him. He told me he was very used to 22, 23-year-old women who didn't have a lot going on upstairs and just, you know, big tits, tight pussy kind of deal, you know? So, and I got that because I was like, man, if I was a dude and I look like that, I'd do that too, you know? But not in the way he did, because in the way he did is just so fucking gross. You can be that guy and do it in a way that's authentic. And he actually portrayed that he was like, oh, you know, I need a lot of variety, blah, 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 blah. You know, these other women don't mean anything, but, you know, just, I like a lot of pussy, you know, whatever. And you're just like, all right, well, I can get there, you know, that makes sense. But he wasn't like, no, I'm making these women all deeply in love with me, and they're all paying my bills, and they're all showing up for me, and they're all doing all these things, and they all think that they're going to have my baby, and I did not know that. I just, you know what it is, you guys, that irritates me so much about this? There were so many little red flags that I just should have walked away from. There were so many little things about him that just disgusted me that I should have just walked the fuck away from. But it's stupid, right? Like, you know, you're like, oh no, I felt this draw and blah, 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 blah. And you think something's going to turn to, and then you think too, this is another thing. This is my arrogance, right? Because I told him when we did what you call it for the first time, I was sitting in his fucking bathroom. I was like, listen, you will never meet another woman like me. I'm gonna tell you right now, every man I have ever been with still aches to have me in their life. You will never meet another woman like me. So, you know, and I told him about my little train analogy. I have a little train analogy where I tell people, like, man, I'm a girl with a one-track mind. Usually if I find somebody and I connect to them and I feel like there could be something more, I don't really give a fuck about anybody else, right? And I put all my energy into them. And there's a limited time. I compared myself to a train being at a station. All right, I'm at your station right now. You got a limited amount of time before I fucking leave. Like, you got a limited amount of time for me to see if this is going to be what I think it's going to be before I fuck off, right? And so I hadn't even told him that. I was like, look, you know, we're at the train station. We're going to see if this is a thing. And so he jumped on, you know, trying to show up for me and be the man that I, you know, needed him to be. But most of it in the beginning was just words. So I end up... So one of the times we're talking, you know, I had bought an Audi, you know, at this point, and but I had wanted a Wrangler, and I wanted a Wrangler because I wanted a vehicle that was a stick shift, because I like driving a stick, and I wanted to do off-road shit. I knew I was going to be into like overlanding and camping and fishing and, you know, all that stuff. So I wanted a vehicle, and he was like, "Oh my God, we're so much alike," you know. Talking about he wanted to get a Jeep, and he was looking at getting a Jeep, blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple of weeks later, like, he got the Jeep, you know, Jeep's there, whatever. He had quit his job. Well, first it was like he fired his ex-wife, then he quit his job. So all these little things are happening, you know, and I'm feeling like we're growing closer. He's sharing his life with me, blah, 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 blah. It's bullshit. Ugh. So let's fast forward. So for the first year, I would say, of this relationship, I kept breaking up with him. I did. I kept getting to the point, because I'd be at my fucking house. I live 5 minutes away from you, walking, 45 seconds from you, driving, and you can't come see me? Like, this is ridiculous. This is bullshit. I'm too over this shit. The two things that would go through my head a lot with him is, this man is lucky he's hot. Because his behavior and the things he would say, I would let it slide only because he was beautiful. Oh, well. One of the things I would say, I can't remember the other, maybe it'll come back to me as I'm talking, but was that he's lucky he's hot. Like, because certain shit would come up, and I'd be like, this fucking guy is just, he's lucky he's hot, because I'd be out of here. This is so weird. there's just weird things about him. Like, and I know I talked about this in another episode, because we would never go out, and I'm like, dude, we don't do anything. This is like not a real relationship. Just coming over and fucking in your house and then leaving. That's not a real relationship. This is a joke, you know? So I got him taken out to breakfast one time, and he's like, you know, you're a witch, right? You know, you're a witch. And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Jesus fucking Christ. I can't get you out the house. Get you out the fucking house. And this is how you talk to me. And there's people around. They're looking at you like, what the fuck is you talking about? You know, like, just, could you just eat your fucking omelet? You know, type energy. But there was also some resonance. So as we're going through this experience, he is introducing me to, he's talking about past lives. He said he recognized my soul, that we were soulmates, you know, that we've been together in past lives, you know, that I was supposed to be the mother of his child in this life, you know, that we found each other. We'd been waiting for each other. He showed me episodes of Black Mirror where, you know, they throw these people in the simulation, they find each other, and then they get out of the simulation. That was us. And, you know, he wanted me to get his name tattooed on him, like in his blood. He did a bunch of spells on me, you know, because he was into esoteric stuff. We started learning. He started teaching me about Kabbalah magic and just like all this stuff, right? All this stuff. And as we're diving more into the spiritual stuff, I'm starting to really like get into it, right? Because in the midst of this relationship, my grandmother passes away. And he was like, you know, do you want to talk to your grandmother? He tells me about a medium, or I could talk to my grandmother. And then we ended up breaking up. It was right around my birthday in 2020. And the reason why is because I'd found out about this other woman that, so what happened was we lived close to each other, right? And he had the Jeep. And so one day I'm getting ready to drive down the mountain, and he pulls in front of me, and I'm like, oh shit, right? So I'm like driving behind him. I'm like waiting to pull up next to him so I could wave. I follow this man, get to a point where I could pull up next to him, get ready to fucking wave, and it's another woman in the car. And I'm like, the fuck? Who the fuck? I'm like, okay, well, that's not him. And so I sent him a fucked up message. I can't remember what I said, but whatever. He's like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. You know, the blah, blah, blah. And that's my friend. Like, she's borrowing, whatever. Oh my God. So full of shit. Turns out this is Nada. This is when I first met Nada. This is when I first had her come into my awareness. So fast forward, whatever. He tells me that this woman is a friend of his, that she was there for him when he had his breakdown, you know, his nervous breakdown after his divorce, and that she pulled a gun from his head because he was going to kill himself. And it's not about the money, he said, because she'd helped him out financially. And so I'm like, whoa, huh, okay. I'm like, okay. Friend, all right. So from there, he starts asking me like, all right, so hold on. In the midst of this, my grandmother passes away, and I break up with him behind this whole Nada thing, right? I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I can't remember, guys. It's hard with some of the details because we had a lot of, I broke up with him a lot because it was like it was almost like, it got to a point where first my soul was pulling me toward him, and then my soul was pushing me away from him, and my ego was pulling me toward him. You know, my ego was like, no, he's like us, blah, blah, blah. Anything mean he does to you, that was the other thing. Anything mean he did, I considered it karma. I was like, this is what I get for this person I was mean to like that, or this is what I get for this person or whatever. You know, I would totally like internalize his shittiness to think that I deserved it because he taught me about all of this spiritual stuff. And, you know, you get whatever. And he was like, you know, if you're shitty to someone and they allow it, that's on them, you know, because that's their free will, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, like this motherfucker here. Anyway, so we end up breaking up. My grandmother passes away, and I end up scheduling the reading with on my own. And I get the reading, connect with my grandmother. This is my spiritual awakening when I realized that the other side is unequivocally fucking real, and they are fucking there, and they are in our heads, and they can hear our thoughts, and they can touch us, and they can communicate with us. Like, all that shit became real to me. And in that reading, I had asked them about him. I was like, you know, what's the deal with this guy I've been seeing? And basically this lady who was actually helping him in his spiritual development, who he spoke so highly of, told me that I needed to leave him alone. And she said, you know, sweetie, he's a nice guy, but it's just crazy making complicated. Now that was a very important thing to say to me because I am a very selfish woman in that if I'm in a relationship with you, I don't give a fuck why there's a no, right? If I want to hang out with you, if the answer is no, I don't give a fuck if it's work, if it's kids, if it's whatever. I'm sad. I got rejected. I want, so I'm like, no, but I want this, and it didn't matter the reason why he was unavailable to me. What mattered is he was unavailable to me, and that should have been it. That should have been my, fuck you deuces, I don't have time for this. You don't have time for me, I don't have time for you, whatever. But when I got off the reading, my ego jumped up. She was like, wait, sis. No, listen. And I literally said this out loud, and it's funny because I can just see my guides and angels just popping popcorn in their mouth like, oh, this bitch, she's gonna pay for this, right? She's gonna know why we told her this at some point. But at that point I was like, it must really be hard being guides and angels for me, because Trina gets what the fuck she wants, and I want this man, so I'm gonna get him. Talk about getting in your own fucking way, kids. Good. Oh God, I just want to slap the fuck out of myself. Fucking asshole. So, we end up getting back together, and now I'm saying this, you guys, I'm telling you guys this with a lot of distaste. And the reason why is because of all the things that have come to light in the last couple days. I'm reprocessing this relationship that I have been removed from for 2 years. And 2 years next month. And I'm seeing it a completely different way, and I'm angry. I'm pissed. Like, what the fuck, And I'm really, really, really being hard on myself as I'm telling you guys this, because I see all these little areas. But the truth of the matter, and the thing that's not going to really get conveyed because of that level of irritation, because that emotion is driving my meat vehicle right now. I'm just using his terms. I hate him. Oh, you suck. Okay. Because my body is allowing my anger to come through as I'm speaking to you. I'm unable to convey for you the deep, unabiding love that I felt for this man. I truly believe that this man was my soulmate. I believed that all the other women that came into his life were just peons, that were gullible, that, he didn't really take too seriously. He was just dumping loads and bitches pincushions, right? He was going to see that I am the real fucking deal, and I'm not going to take no dumb shit. And I'm a fucking ally to have on your team, And so I was kind of waiting for him to see that, so that we could move into creating this beautiful life. Now, when I was on Tinder, a little quick thing or whatever, I thought I was so smart, guys. I'm like, all right, this time I want to find somebody who's really in alignment with where I want my life to go. I knew I wanted to live in the mountains. I knew I wanted to build a house. I knew I wanted acreage around me and just a lot of peace. And so I would ask men in the casual, talking, like, tell me about your retirement plans. Like, what do you see yourself doing after you work? Because I know my retirement plans are to never quit working, because I'm a business owner. So I'm always going to have my hand in stuff. I'm also a manifesting generator, so I like to do things, I like to stay busy. I like to have my mind engaged. I like to be of service to people. So I knew that was going to be a part of my story. I also knew that I wanted to live in the mountains, and I knew, and so most guys, they're like, oh, I'm going to work on cars, or I'm going to be on a boat, or just shit that didn't interest me. And his response was he wanted to have a ranch in Montana. I was like, oh my fucking God, that's in alignment with where I wanted to go, And so I'm like sitting here in this space where I'm like, okay, he's going to figure out that I'm the one to build this future with, and that once we leave all this dumb shit alone and we heal these wounds of ours, we can move into creating the life that we came here to create, in the reading also, where my guides and angels told me to leave him alone, that he was crazy, making complicated. She said that we did have past lives together. She told me that he was my sister in a past life, and I thought, they're telling me that because it would make him so mad to hear that, because he's such a macho dude. Oh, it wasn't a girl. Like, I can totally see him being like, oh, I remember thinking, I'm not going to tell him that because he's going to be so, like, butthurt, So they said we were sisters, and she was like, sweetie, that's the pull. She was like, that's the only reason you're pulled to this man. She was like, it's because you had that past life connection. And again, after I got the reading, I was like, no, but I want him. It must be hard to be my guides and angels because I'm going to get what I want, blah, blah, blah. Not really, 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 really understanding and appreciating how imperative it is that we listen to our guides and angels, kids. Oh my God, they will give you a shortcut to where you need to go without all the bullshit. But if you take the bullshit route, then you get to be like me, learn a bunch of lessons, and then I'll share them with other people in hopes that you save some other woman some fucking money and some fucking time. Because what ended up happening with me, guys, with respect to this relationship, is I ended up acquiescing on a lot of things that were important to me. I ended up putting down, making myself smaller for this man, basically, you know, allowing the being with other women, you know, the letting him drive my car, you know, once I realized that he was driving me around in some other woman's fucking car. The allowing myself to even entertain the idea of having more children. I've had all the kids I want to have. I really, really, really don't want to have any more children. There's a part of me that like can see myself being a mom again, just because I do love being a mom, but also I do know that I have other callings and things that I need to do, and kids are all consuming, and it's a lot of fucking work, and I really didn't want to go down that path again. I'm really in a space now, like in the present moment, where I want to find somebody who just wants to allow me to love them and not have the distraction of children, because I know what that does. I know that, you know, puts a strain on the relationship. I know it puts a strain on the sex. There's a lot that goes into that. And then, you know, your life becomes this pre-planned thing where you got to, you know, do assemblies and plays. And, you know, I was very involved in my kids' lives, like, you know, team mom, ways and means committee. My ex-husband was very much involved in the community. He was, you know, he did volunteer coaching, and our kids were in soccer, and like everybody in like the Riverside little area like knew of us because, you know, we were this little family couple, and, you know, we did all those things. And I was tired. I was so tired. I had been raising kids since I was 8 years old, you know, from my sisters. And then, you know, once they were out of the picture, I had kids my first child when I was 17. I didn't know how to be without kids. And now that I was divorced and I had got the place in the mountains, I'd moved up here by myself because my two younger kids, my very youngest was on the autism spectrum. And when we called the schools up here to see about the programming, they just didn't have the program up here to support him. And so they stayed down with my ex-husband, and I became the weekend parent. And that's what worked for us. My ex-husband is an amazing dad. Like, when we were married, I won't say that he was a stay-at-home dad, but he did a lot of the house stuff. I did a lot of the money making. You know, he made money too, but, you know, he was in insurance, so he had a lot of time freedom. And, you know, he'd grocery shop, and he'd cook dinner, and, you know, he'd wash clothes, and he was a good dude, you know. And I was used to like having this we really worked really well together with respect to our family and taking care of our family and being like, you know, in that partnership with the kids as a priority, you know. And I just really, really, really was not interested in doing that, but I was willing to consider that, you know. Then it comes out, you know, with time that his dream is to build this house on this property and to have a bunch of little concubine cottages, you know, where this woman lived. And I lived over here with a kid, and this woman was over here. But I was the only one that was going to get a child, allegedly, right? Such horseshit. So, of course, we end up getting back together because my fucking ego's a bitch. And she, you know, it's like she doesn't want things sometimes. It's like there were times when he would show up and my ego would be like, girl, we're too good for this. And then when I would leave him, and my ego would be like, no, bitch, we want him. It was so confusing. Egos suck, by the way, guys, if you don't have control over yours. And I feel like it's especially hard for Sagittarius people because the ego is just especially like creative and just, ugh. So anyway, so fast forward, and so we get back together. Now we're doing ecstasy, right? I've learned more about this other woman who I now know to be Nada. And so I asked him, I was kind of in a space where I was like, all right, I'm gonna allow this man to show me what he wants, what his true dreams are, true, like, you know, whatever. I'm going to give him space. I'm going to tell him that I'm supportive of whatever, even though I knew damn good and well that I was never going to fully commit myself to a man who was in love with another woman. And I told him that. I was like, look, I'm all for the polyamory with respect to, like, you know, playing... because in, you know, my past relationships, we'd have threesomes and stuff. Like, I was very open to that kind of idea. But this, it was like, no, I want to have like separate things with people. And I wasn't okay with that. I'm like, no, I'm okay with sharing your body, but I'm not going to share your heart. If you want my heart, I'm not going to share your heart. It's just not it's not how I get down. Oh my God. And so one time we're on ecstasy, and I was like, you know, I wanted to really like break them open and see what was what, right? And I'm like, so when do I get to meet my sister wife, right? Talking about Nada. And he was like, I don't know. He's like, pretty soon, you know, whatever. I was like, well, tell me about her, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you know, she's a good dude, blah, blah, blah. She's like, loves the fuck out of me, you know. And I was like, wrong answer. Didn't say anything though, because again, I'm on ecstasy. So he's saying all this stuff that's deeply painful to me, but because I'm on ecstasy, all I feel is joy, right? So I asked him a little more. I was like, you plan on having kids there? He's like, oh, you're way ahead of me. You're like way ahead of me. No, like you're way ahead of me on that. That was not true. He told her he would have children with her. I later found out a couple days ago. But yeah, he told me, these things, and I went home and I got off drugs, and I was sitting there and I was like, no. Yeah, no. Nope. This is not for me. This is not going to be my story. And I can't remember what happened. I can't remember if I broke up with him at that point or what happened, because again, you guys, we were on and off so many times. What would happen was he would leave. He left me the first time, but then every other time after that, it was pretty much me being like, I can't fucking do this. I can't live like this. I can't be like this. This is not for me. But when I would leave, after a few days, just despair would flood my body, and I would ache, and it felt like longing, and it felt like pain, and I just needed him back into my life. And so now I'm a little bit more armed, though, because I've had the spiritual awakening. So we got into a fight one time because he had stole some of my acid and used it with Nada. Or it might not even have been her. It could have been anyone with respect to that. But I'm pretty sure it was her. And it doesn't matter who it was, by the way. It was wrong, period. Because he didn't ask. He could have asked to take some, and he fucking didn't. And that bothered me because, again, I grew up with a drug addict mother, and she would steal shit, And so that was like a wound for me, to have somebody stealing my things. Like, talk to me. If we're together and what's mine is yours, then you could just fucking say that. But instead he gaslighted me. It was like, well, I mean, you said, oh, well, you'd give it to me anyway. And yeah, I didn't mean to blow. Just like, he's really, 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 really good at turning things that are his responsibility and that caused you pain into you just being a fucking crazy person. Really, really good at that. So I ended up snapping on him and, being upset. And I also had some sleeping pills that I thought were missing. And so we were driving to the gym one day, and he stopped. He asked me to stop, and he goes and he buys $30 worth of like $10 sleeping pills, and he throws them in my fucking purse like a little bitch, just like psst, with this fucking look on his fucking face. Ugh. And so whatever, we get into an argument. I end up driving his ass home. He didn't want me to get out of the car. Like, I didn't want to fucking get out of the car with him anyway. Like, pulled up to his house. He's like, don't pull in the driveway. Little bitch. Oh, he's such a bitch. I'm so disgusted, you guys. I'm sorry. It's funny. As I was hiking this morning, I was like, Trina, try to tell the story from the perspective in the moment, but I just can't, because in this moment, you guys, I want to fucking vomit. Nada messaged me this morning. This guy's picture is all over. Oh my God. This guy. So disgusted right now. I'm trying so hard because I loved him deeply, and I know that's not coming through here because I'm so disgusted now, but I really, really, really loved him and really thought that, on a long enough timeline he would heal, and that we were meant to be together, and that despair that I pulled in being in his absence was really just my soul's longing for us to be together. And we were supposed to help each other heal and evolve and build this beautiful fucking log cabin out of raw trees that we harvested off our own land, that both of our blood and sweat was in, all these beautiful fucking things. We were gonna have a baby, and I asked him, I wanted him to deliver it, because I wanted a home birth. I didn't get a home birth with my son, my last son. I really wanted a home birth. I had planned for it, but things had came up, and my money went towards saving my dog instead of to a midwife, because I had Kaiser insurance, and they're not coming to your house to so it didn't end up happening. And so I thought, well, if I am going to have a baby with this guy, I told him by that point, we're going to have a nanny or an au pair, because I can't do the full-time parenting thing anymore. I need time for myself. I'd realized at that point how much sacrificing I had been doing throughout my whole life to be in service of my children, and how at this point I had just barely gotten to know myself, who I truly was and what I truly wanted, because I was blessed enough that when I went through the divorce and moved back from Arizona, I got to move into a place by myself and just sit with myself and be like, and that was one good thing that did come of him asking for my fidelity. Once I stopped fucking around with other people, I really did, a lot of internal work. And, I'd wake up in the morning and ask myself, like, what do I feel like doing right now? Like, what's going to bring me the most joy, and then following that inner voice and that inner, so there was like this whole period of like self-discovery. Also, another thing that was happening with him was he was giving me space to be beautiful again, right? Like, you know, he'd asked me to wear makeup for him. He told me that made him feel loved. You know, that wearing lingerie, so like every night, like I'm dressing up, you know, doing the whole makeup hair thing or whatever. I'm re-falling in love with my body, with my sexuality, with connecting with somebody. I felt like he was the first man I ever made love to. And I think, guys, that's why I'm so fucking mad, because what I gave him was fucking pure, and it was fucking genuine. And if I would have known who he was, he was not entitled to any of that. I don't, fucking spirituality bullshit aside, he was not entitled to what he got from me. And that's why I'm so fucking angry. Had I known who he was, I wouldn't have been all fucking lackadaisical, like, oh, he's just hot. Oh, he's just what he's, no, fuck. He's calculating and he's cruel. And I didn't fucking realize it. And so I'm angry that I gave that man what I gave him. Because when I walked away, I was like, wow, I got to love somebody at about 80%. I got to love somebody about 80% of what I felt I had to offer. And the reason why it was just 80% was because I was holding back that other 20, because I could feel him, and I could feel him comparing me to Nada specifically, because Nada was also loving him with everything that she fucking had. And I could feel him comparing it, you know? And I was of the energy of, if she's going to do it for you, I'm fucking not. So I show up to his house with some Starbucks. You hit me up and ask me if I wanted any. Yeah, no, I didn't. Oh, fuck, my bad. And I could feel him being like, in his head, well, Nada wouldn't have did that. He didn't say it, but I could hear it, you know. And he didn't call her Nada because he didn't want me to know her real name. I would have looked her up on social media. He called her Melissa. So anyway, so there's while all this like shittiness, and there was also beauty that was happening. I was learning things. I had started reading the Dolores Cannon books, which Nada has also read, because, you know. So as him and I are like delving into the spirituality stuff, I start, you know, telling him, like, I can hear your thoughts. Like, what's going on? You know, why is Melissa on your mind? You know, because eventually we got to a point where, this is like later on within the last year of the relationship, where he is like, you know what, I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to drop all my hose, you know, and I'm going to commit to you. We're going to build a solid foundation together, and then we'll play and we'll explore. We had, you know, plans to still like have threesomes. We were going to do birthday bashes together, because our birthdays, mine's November 26th, his is December 21st. We were going to do joint like orgies, you know. We were going to get like hire fucking 5, you know, Colombian hookers and shit, and like have fun. And I know that sounds bad, guys, but I'm with the business. So like all this like excitement and just like love, but also not being trapped, right? And we were going to create a marriage that was of growth and of expansion, and like, you know, that was like freedom based and all this stuff, which really is kind of irritating, because, you know, where I'm at now, and the way because I do want to be married again, and I do want to have a committed relationship to someone, but from that experience, so like this is another thing that's irritating, you guys, because now like this woman that I am now, a lot of that was based on what I perceived to be the beauty of this relationship that I'm telling you about now, and none of it was actually beautiful. He was just a big fucking pretty balloon, and now it's been popped and there's nothing but air. And I'm so humiliated and disgusted and just frustrated. But, you know, I thought I was creating something beautiful with a beautiful person that I was supposed to be with. I thought I had found my soulmate. I thought that this man does not deserve my tears. Like, I'd keep trying to remind myself, you know, on some level, I asked for this, Rain. We had a meeting. If you read, you know, Robert Short's books about soul planning, you know that before we incarnate, we have these meetings. And we talk about, you know, who we're going to come into contact with, and we discuss what that's going to look like, and the lessons that we're going to learn, and how we're going to show up for each other. Oh, man, I didn't know it was going to go like this. Did not know it was going to go like this. Anyway. So, I'm building this fake beautiful relationship with this fake man, pretending to be the love of my life. And meanwhile, I'm growing spiritually. And I remember, I'll never forget the day we were working on something, and I had read his mind. I could hear his thoughts, and I said it out loud. And he looked at me, and the energy was like, I gotta stop teaching her this, because she's gonna know everything. She's gonna know everything, you know? Now, when he got to the point where he was dropping all his hoes, so to speak, this is the first time Nada reached out to me. So she had sent me a friend request on Facebook. And by this point, I had felt really bad for her, because he had portrayed her to be a girl that was his friend, that he had no sexual chemistry with. They had sex, but, you know, it was Diet Coke, as he said, but he told her the same thing about me, so, you know, so I had in my heart a space of empathy for her, because I thought, you know, she has low self-esteem, you know, she's just hanging on, hoping that he'll show up for her one day. She's just trying to play her, you know, whatever cards, but that was not true. It was so not true. So I was able to tune into her energy when I saw the video. She made a video, and it was heartbreaking, you guys. I fucking wept my eyes out. Like, when she messaged me, we were in the living room on the bed, and he was asleep, and I got the message, and I thought I knew her to be Melissa, and I get this message from this woman named Nada, and I recognized her face, but I'm like, who the fuck is Nada? So I say to him, I'm like, who is Nada? He's like, oh God, oh no, not Melissa, not her, oh God. Like, basically trying to make it out like she was being a drama queen, and it's just because he let her go that she was all upset, and don't look at any of her shit, blah, 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 blah. I'm not an obedient bitch, y'all. I am not. I went to the fucking bathroom with my phone, scoured this woman's fucking Facebook, saw that he had invited me over to be with him on his birthday with the kids, and I had to shoot a wedding, so she was over there instead. I saw the beautiful cake that she made him, like, all this shit. Like, I'm seeing her showing up, like, being in the kids' lives, like, oh, I'm seeing the way she's talking about him, like, I'm seeing all this shit, and I'm like, this was not a fucking woman who believed we're not together. He's like, if you ask her if she can call herself my girlfriend, she would say no. Like, all this technicality bullshit, just bullshit, you know, that was not true. She believed that was her fucking man, like, and I stayed, because I felt like, okay, well, shit, at this point, you know, he's come this far, maybe he's going to really transform, and maybe he's going to really heal. He had told me, because I told him, I was like, look, I don't want you can't leave her alone just because I want you to. You need to have completion with her that's organic, because if you leave her alone just because I've asked you to, you're going to resent me, and you're going to reach back out to her, you know, period. And he says to me, no, Trina, in order for me to be with her, I have to be a less evolved version of myself, and I can't do that. You know, I can't do that. And I was like, well, if you told her, you know, that you'd never leave her hanging, why can't you still be friends with her? Why can't you say, hey, like, look, maybe we can chat, you know, through email or something? Like, why can't you keep some kind of friendship for her? Because, dude, I saw her. She took a fucking solo trip to Mammoth. I could feel her. I could feel how she loved him. Oh, God, neighbors, y'all. Sorry about the noise. Anyway. I could feel her energy. I could fucking feel her energy. And I just remember being so heartbroken for her. But also trying to give him the benefit of the doubt of, okay, like, he's taking the steps, blah, 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 you know, whatever. So, time goes by. You know, we're spending all of our time together. We're snowboarding together all day. We're going to the gym at night. I'm cooking breakfast. He's cooking dinner, or vice versa, you know, whatever. Like, we have this whole relationship now. I'm feeling like, you know, whatever, but there's still little shit that's happening. So, for example, I remember, and again, now at this point, I wouldn't even say I knew I was psychic, because I just found out I was psychic, honestly, guys, when the fairy showed up in my living room. And I had the reading, and I found out about other stuff. I didn't really know. I just thought that I could feel everything, you know. I could feel her, you know, whatever. So he yells at me. He's like, you need to not worry about that. You're tuning into stuff that's not your business, and blah, 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 and whatever. And I'm like, dude, and just so you guys know, through my whole life, I have never been a woman to be weaponized against another woman. You will not use me to hurt another woman. Like, I've had, so for example, I was doing a wedding one time at Sunset Cliffs, and these guys come up to me and they're like, man, he's like, you're so stunning. Like, my boy just broke up with his girlfriend. Would you take a picture with him to make her jealous? And I was like, absolutely fucking not. I said, look, this beauty here is to be in honor of somebody. It is not to hurt another woman. You will not use me to cause another woman pain. And I hated the way he made me wish that she would just go away. And I could feel that she wanted me to just disappear too. And it was really funny. One of our last conversations Nada and I had sent her this fucked up ass email, and it was when I had broke up with him for good. And I was done because whatever, we'll get there. And she said to me, hurry up and just disappear already. And I was like, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew this woman just wanted me to go, you know? So anyway, so we're, you know, we're living our best life and we're whatever, but little shit keeps popping up here and there, right? Like, you know, we get COVID. Right? I used to think I had the best COVID story ever, guys. We got COVID, snowboarding, and, you know, being at the gym, you know, not wearing our masks because we're rebels, whatever. And then our you know, COVID stories, we hunkered up in the fucking house and there's snow falling. It was beautiful. And we watched Game of Thrones, which is very violent. And I fucking hate violent shit. That was another thing. Like, he would, like, you know, try to make me watch horror movies. You like horror movies? I was like, no, I fucking don't. That's your other girlfriend. Your other girlfriend likes horror films. I don't like horror films. I'm too sensitive. I can't fucking watch it. No, you two don't say that. How are you going to say that? Try to act like I get everybody fucked up. I'm like, because I fucking hate scary movies. Like, that's pretty fucking simple. Like, I'm not going to accidentally pretend to like scary fucking me. I remember we watched this movie and it was just like so gross. This little fucking raggedy ass horror film. And I'm just sitting there and I literally was sitting on the couch like this, like just watching it. And he could see that I was not feeling it, you know. It's fucking gross. Anyway. So little things are happening. We're, you know, at the house having, you know, whatever, just sex and watching, you know, what you call it, and resting. We're ordering Instacart, having groceries delivered because we're trying to be responsible and not hurt anybody. And all of a sudden I, you know, told him that I was going to cook dinner, or maybe I told him I was going to not cook dinner. I can't remember the details, but he's like, oh, I'm going to eat the burrito from Miguel's. I'm like, when the fuck did you go to Miguel's? You know, we didn't go to Miguel's. I've been with you. Like, where did Miguel's come from? Oh, Melissa had sent it to me. Really? That's interesting. Because if you told her that I was here cooking you meals, I feel like she would have saved her money. She has kids. Why would she fucking bring you, you know, order you? I thought it was Instacart. She told me, we talked about this the other day. She told me she fucking brought it. She drove all the way up there to bring this man a fucking, and I'm not just angry for myself. I'm also angry on behalf of her. Because, and all the other women out there that he took advantage of, this is purity. This is true love that she was feeling. This is true love that I was feeling. And we were showing up for this man in a way that he did not deserve. He didn't fucking deserve it. I feel raped. And it's really funny because he sent me this fake ass email accusing me of exactly what the fuck he did. And just, oh my God, I've been so eliminated by this whole experience and how trifling and calculating and nasty people can be. Anyway, so, you know, these little things come up. Now, I'm ready to fucking leave him behind this whole burrito thing, you know. And in the interim, as him and I are having these breakups or whatever, I'm getting readings. So, you know, another shitty thing happened. We got into a fight or something when I dropped him off. And then he'd called her. I drove by later that night. My guides and angel's like, bitch, get in the car. Go get in the car and go drive by and see what the fuck up went over there. His fucking car was there. We were supposed to teach my son, and my son's birthday was the next day. We were supposed to teach him how to snowboard. And I get there the next day. Her car's gone. You know, he plays it and acts like, oh, nothing happened or whatever. I got my fucking rose quartz and my black tourmaline in my hand because I want to fucking rip into this dude. I'm so angry. I'm so pissed. Like, you fucking piece of shit. My man doesn't call other women. You got me fucked up, right? But we'd made plans for my kids. I'm trying to be a good mom. I'm trying to, you know, save face. Whatever. We get to the fucking, where do we go? We get to Bear Mountain. And what happens? I have a few drinks. You know, Trina and the drinks. This real bitch comes out. Have a few drinks, and I lose my shit on him. We got up on the thing. He says something all trying to be cute or whatever. That's the other thing. He had this jovial little, like, condescending way of trying to, like, make things right. And I was like, you are not my fucking man. Like, you are not my fucking man. You ain't mine. You sure the fuck ain't mine. Because my man don't call no other bitch. Like, and I just lost my shit on him. Lost my shit. By the time we got off the thing, he was like, this sucks. I'm trying to be good to you. This is how you talk to me? Just completely gaslighting me. You guys, the whole time, it was all fake. It was all fake. He deserved none of the concessions he received. None of the compassion I gave him. He deserved none of the love. None of it. He deserved my pussy once. And I don't even think that, because he should have kicked me out that first fucking night. That was a big sign that this person does not give a fuck about the well-being of another fucking human. The anchor is there, y'all. We're working on it. I'm really hoping that this podcast and releasing this allows me to, because I'm trying to remind myself this is a part of the plan. Where I thought our soul planning thing was going to, this beautiful thing of connection and healing or whatever. No. This was the plan. This was the plan for me to go through these shitty ass experiences so that I could be of service to other people who've gone through something similar. So I can say, you know what? I know you fell in love with the narcissist and you had no idea that it was a narcissist. And I know you gave him everything that you fucking could and you believed that it was real. But he was just giving you the biggest fucking level up you will receive in this lifetime. Maybe. Stay tuned. I'm always open for big level ups, guys, but maybe not so detrimental, So anyway, time progresses, he does the fake breaking up with everyone. I get the message from Nada. I see all the lies on the, I'm timelining out what she's posting on her thing and how it's appearing and the way she's talking about him in the comments. And I'm like, this motherfucker, right? So now we're getting close to the end. And, he had told me that, I need to go give her stuff back. I let him use my car to go take her stuff back. He comes back and he tells me this whole big horseshit story about how there was this fight and we had to help these people out and call the police. And I was in her car. She was not in your car. He told me blah, 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 blah. I hugged my friend and we cried. He was like, and I'm going to miss my friend, he told me. And I was like, really? You're going to miss your fucking friend? That's the fuck you're going to walk back in here and tell? I ended up going off on him. And he was like, I'm just trying to be honest with you. See, you make it so that I can't be honest with you. And I'm like, dude, no, what the fuck? So I ended up going out the room and he's like, do you know what, Trina? He was like, if she fucking died, he was like, there's nothing there. He's like, you're doing way too much. He was like, she's just a fucking friend. He was like, if you die, he said, I won't call her tomorrow. He was like, I used her and it wasn't fair to her. She overgave and it wasn't fair to her. He acted like he had all this empathy for the way because I got on his ass. I was so on his ass about her, you guys, because he would act like she was a friend. And, he told me that she had seen pictures of us and on Facebook because she was going to sell something to buy tires. And she had saw a boat that I had listed for sale. And I'm like, why the fuck is she buying tires and you're driving her car? Why aren't you buying her fucking tires? So now I'm starting to see that this nigga ain't shit. I'm starting to see that he's literally just using us, right? I'm like, oh my fucking God. So fast forward, whatever. Drama happens. We're having kid sleepovers. Some drama happened with my kid that basically kind of catapulted this more drama with his ex-wife, which was already there pre-existing. But she used a situation to go after him. And now in retrospect, I kind of get the feeling, if you have my story and I only spent 2 years with him, and Nada has her story and she spent 5 years with him, his ex-wife has 10 years of his fucking bullshit, and she probably is way more to the wise of what he's really like than what her and I were, because I'm just finding out. I'm just fucking finding this out, and I'm already removed from the situation. He wasn't even on my fucking radar. He was on my radar, and that I had recently, about a month ago, I had asked in one of our readings, I was like, is there any warnings from my guides and angels? And they're like, he's going to resurface. They said he's going to throw you a curveball, but you're going to knock it out of the park because you're done with him. And I was like, all right, yeah, that checks out, whatever. So he was only on my radar, and the fact that I was told that he might pop up again, Melissa ends up reaching out first and telling me why. So, girl, I love you. Shout out to fucking Nada. Sorry. Okay, so Nada and Melissa are the same person. It's just while I was with him, he was referring to her as Melissa because he didn't want me looking up her social media and finding her. So now I've known that she goes by Nada. That's her fucking name. And Melissa's her middle name. So anyway, I digress if there's any confusion there. Damn, this is taking long. So I'm starting to get disgusted, whatever. He tells me all that bullshit. Shit happens with that. You know, I put some money toward his, Meanwhile, guys, all this time he's telling me that he's a cannabis farmer, that that Nada was doing bud trimming for him. He would use my car and tell me that he was making deals. You know, come to find out, none of that ever happened. Nada said all that was bullshit. I'm thinking that he's got kind of his shit together, you know, financially. You know, he has a good resume. He was the CEO of an industrial construction company. He has a master's degree and blah, 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 whatever. All the things, all the shiny little things that society tells you want in a high value man. Oh my God. So, anyway, time is progressing, and, you know, this thing's, so this weekend comes up, and he's like, you know, I had my kids, so I was at my house. He's like, I'm going to come by this weekend and hang out with you and the kids, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Weekend goes by. I don't hear from him barely at all, except one message where he's like, you're awfully quiet. What's going on with you? What are you over there doing? Right? And I'm like, bro, I'm with my fucking kids, right? That was the other thing. He was always big on accusing you of cheating or accusing you of being into someone else or blah, 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 you know? So whatever. So meanwhile, this weekend, my guides and angels are giving me download after download after download after download. They're very, very, very working with me on a soul level to prepare me for this breakup, to prepare me for what is about to be the end. They sent me a song by Jay Poland, I think it's called The End. And I was singing that fucking song all weekend. So when he calls me over and he's like, I think I actually might have asked him if I can come over. I don't know. One way or another, I end up over there and I walk in the house and the energy's different. Just stark fucking different. It feels like a place I've never been in before. All I can smell is piss and shit. You guys, I have like the clairs of my nose. You know how you can smell bullshit? I have that. You guys, I have all the fucking clairs are really strong for me. But again, at this point, I didn't really realize, you know. But so walk in the fucking door, smell piss and shit. You know, I sit next to him. He puts his hand on his thing. He's like, you know, Melissa's dad threw the wall, and I just feel really bad leaving her there. And look, this is what I want to do. I want you to move in with me up here, and I want to move her downstairs. And she's gonna pay $1,200 rent, and you're gonna pay $8, and you know, blah blah blah. So I ask him some questions. I'm like, all right, well, how long is she gonna stay? And he was like, oh, I don't know. You don't want to, like, you know, give people whatever. I was like, well, why can't she just stay at my place? You know, she can have my house. And he's like, no, I don't want to go through all that, whatever. Said some bullshit. And this point, guy's like, yeah, no. I'm just like, I'm so over it. I'm like, okay. But I'm trying to keep my shit together. I'm like, okay. I'm trying not to do anything rash, right? I'm trying to keep all the fire in this fucking fire sign bitch, like, under wraps. So, I was like, well, do you plan on having sex with her again? And he was like, that is very possible. And I was like, okay. I was like, I need to go. And he stands up and he kisses me on the forehead, all condescending little bitch. Kisses me on the forehead and walks out the room, whatever. I go home, hop in my bed, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this nigga here got me fucked up. I have allowed this man to think that he can do anything he wants to me, and he's about to find out that ain't fucking true. I'm too old. Oh, that was the thing. So the two things that I would say a lot when I was with him is he's lucky he's so hot, and I'm too old for this shit. Those were things that would pop up as different things would come up, where I would just be like, I'm too old for this shit. But the pull, you guys, it was the soulmate connection. And I want to take a minute to say, we're all fucking soulmates. Every single one of us. We are all in the same soul group. None of us do not know each other. We all know each other. Our souls have been around for fucking eons. And I don't care if you're shaking your fucking hand with somebody at the fucking gas station briefly. That's a soulmate. That's somebody that you fucking know and recognize on a soul level. And this man used that. And it worked, you know, to keep me there. And because I did not understand fully, you know, what the fuck was going on. So anyway, I sit there for, you know, I'm on my bed. I'm like, ugh. And then I'm like, no, Trina, you know what? You're open. This could be, maybe let's entertain this. Let's entertain this. She lives downstairs. I live upstairs. We're all big one fucking, nope. Nothing that was not resonating in my body. That made my soul want to jump out of my being and be like, no. I'm just like, you know what? Yep, no, this is not going to work. So, after all his fucking cruelty to me, after all his shittiness, after all his passive-aggressive bullshit, and now that I know not only is he a fucking liar, but he's using me and this woman. He's using these two single moms, right, to pay his rent was $1,500. She's paying $12. I'm paying $8. Oh, and I gotta keep my place? You got me fucked up. Fucked up. So I decided I was going to get my motherfucking revenge. And it was so not as good as it needs to be. This is probably better revenge. And just so you guys know, this isn't really about vengeance. I'm actually sharing this story because I feel like it's a part of my soul contract with regards to this situation. My guides and angels have been heavy on me about this. They're like, first of all, you got to talk about this. And the reason why it's really important is because this fucking relationship catapulted me into inner child healing. And had I done my inner child healing before this man came into my life, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have had time for any of this shit because I would have been whole within myself. I wouldn't have had the holes that he was able to see within me, that he was able to plug with his little fake ass love, right? So I drive to his motherfucking house next day. He's all sleepy, opens the door. I'm like, can I climb in bed with you? He's like, yep. Go to bed with him, fuck him. He eats me out, makes me come, and I tell his ass he's created a timeline I want 0 parts of. I got the fuck up, packed my shit, and left his ass looking cross-eyed as fuck on his porch. Drove my motherfucking ass home, and I have the level of peace that I experienced, you guys. Like, this relationship was constant chaos. It was constant drama. It was constant him being upset about some other woman. He loved to whine about his ex-wife. She was so evil and she was out to get him and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe any of that shit anymore. I do not believe any of that shit anymore at all. I believe that she knows he's a fucking sociopath, and she probably I can't even imagine what that was. He told me some of the cruel shit that he did to her, to the point where before I even realized how shitty he was, I was low-key I get it. You did that shit to me, I might have murdered your motherfucking ass. Straight the fuck up. What? You're married with 20 fucking girlfriends? Can you imagine how that made her feel? These bitches are reaching out to her? Come the fuck on. And you pumped her full of babies? She's got 4 babies? This beautiful woman has given her whole being to this man. And, yeah. Oh my God. So I go home and I'm at peace. I'm like, cool. I'm done. I'm done. So pop some sleeping pills, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and there's a peace in my life that I had not experienced in some time. I have all this new information, meaning, I have a lot of, because as this was happening, a lot of my spiritual awakening stuff, I had started talking to my guides and angels. I had started connecting with them. I realized that the little pushes that I had been getting along the way, it wasn't just my mind. It wasn't just me picking up on things. It wasn't me just feeling things. It was them warning my motherfucking ass, right? So I'm like, all right. So I go home and I'm like, okay, if I can meet a man that is that perfect for me, because I was still low-key, even though I was done with his ass and upset about the lie, I still felt like he just chose to not evolve, right? So I'm still putting him on a pedestal, even after I've left him. I'm like, I'm not going to fuck anyone else. I'm going to focus on my business. I'm going to focus on my work, and I'm going to give him time to heal and to level up and to burn out whatever his contract is with this other woman, right? I'm just going to focus on me, whatever. No, actually, that wasn't that time. Okay, so me having that energy of I'm going to focus on me and whatever, that was actually a different time we had broken up. That wasn't the final time, because the final time I was just done. Yeah, I was done. And in the meantime, too, also, you guys, through the times where we broke up, I would get readings. Now, that was another thing he did. He made me promise to never get any readings about him and I in the future. And I knew when he said that was a huge red flag. Spirit is not going to lie to you. If you have aligned beings in your life, the Spirit is not going to lie to you. And every time I had got a reading about him, I had been warned off him. So one of the Akashic Records readings I got, she was literally like, look. Oh, okay, wait, let me back up. So after I left him for the last time, I was cool for a couple days, and then despair came in again. That whole despair, feeling of blah, blah, blah. And it was really confusing at that time because his behavior had 100% put me off him on a logical level, right? But there was still something on the soul level that was painful. And so I get an Akashic Records reading with Lorena Espiga, and I hope my battery doesn't die. But she basically tells me that we brought this energy in from a past life where we both came from affluent families, and we had connected in this life, and we had had this pure and genuine connection. and we were ripped apart by our families. Like, the sense I get is that I wanted to connect with him further. He wanted me further, but like my parents, I was told that, my family was like, fuck no, you can't, whatever. And so there was this energy between us of longing, of this despair of losing him that was based from the other fucking life. It wasn't even about who he was in this present life. It was totally past life shit. I had been warned about this, remember, in the fucking reading in 2020, after my grandmother passed away. Carolyn was like, the past life pull is the only reason you have that draw to him, but I didn't fucking listen. And you know what? It dawned on me yesterday as I was driving that I never asked why my parents in that life or my family didn't want me with him. And it was probably because he wouldn't have been fucking good to me, just like he wasn't good to me in this life. I should have asked the reasoning, but I didn't think about that. All I identified with was the being pulled apart and him going on. He went on that into that. He went through the rest of that life wanting me. And I was the one thing that got away because he had it all in that life. He was affluent, whatever. But I, in that life, did not move on. I would not engage with anyone. I spent that life bitter and miserable, angry at my family because they pulled me away from him. I didn't even have sex. I didn't get married or anything. Like, I gave him that life, and I gave him my energy in that life, all of it, And I was like, I am determined to not do that in this life. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to leave him now and say, oh, he's the one that got away, and now I could never have any other man. Because I told myself that while I was with him. I was like, I'm never going to be able to have another man. Like, where am I going to go from here? No one's ever going to love me as much as him. No one's ever going to see me the way he saw me. No one's ever going to make love to me the way he made love to me. Like, our bodies were synchronistic. It was like, wherever he went to school, that's where I went to school. We did the same fucking dance. Like, he was it. He was everything. He was the all. He was a balloon, guys. I was having sex with a fucking blow-up doll. I didn't even fucking know it. So, yeah. So, I got that reading, and it gave me a lot of peace. I was done with him. I was like, all right, I ain't spending no more fucking money on this guy, meaning I wasn't going to get any more readings asked about him. At this point, he owed me money. I can't remember how much. It was over 1,000, under 2,000, somewhere in there. And I was like, I'm done. I am all the way fucking done. I have nothing more for you. No more of my energy is going towards you at all. You don't deserve me to piss on you if you're on fucking fire. I was done. So, much to my surprise, I was surprised. So this happened in July, end of July. So after I left him, I went celibate. I started doing the inner child healing work, working on myself, whatever. After a few months, I started opening myself up, got back on Tinder, met new people, and started trying to move on with my life. Well, his little spidey senses was tingling, and he decides to send me a really fucking nasty ass message, just unkind, shitty, bullshit, whatever. So I reply to him, I can't imagine what you're going through that has you speaking to me like this, but I'm praying for you. I just tried to respond in grace because at this point I know this guy's a fucking piece of shit. He's a broken being, right? Like, obviously his soul is pure. We all are, and he's just playing his role in this life or whatever. But from where I'm sitting, you ain't shit. So, he sends me this whatever, and I'm still trying to be kind and whatever, because I still loved him. I didn't really realize that all the promises that he made to me were bullshit, and he was promising every woman that. I still thought that I was special, and I still thought that, him and I breaking up because of Nada was him honoring her. Like, I really thought he was honoring his friend because he made a promise to her that he'd never leave her hanging. I looked at, him reconnecting with her as him doing what was right, not him using another woman. That night that he, the night that he told me that he, went in my car to give her stuff and blah, blah, blah. He was fucking her. He fucked her. He did some shit with her in my car. Like, he begged her back. She was done with him, and he begged her back. And that's when she'd been in the fucking picture the whole fucking time, waiting for me to get kicked out because that's what he told her. Oh, it's not the same. She's not you. Blah, fucking blah. You guys, this motherfucker was good. This motherfucker is good. Like, it's good. So, he sends me this fucked up message, whatever. I respond because I'm trying to keep my grace. At this point, I'm knowing that I'm vibrating at a higher level than this man. I'm knowing that my level of integrity is above the level of this man's. He's just a poor soul that needs my prayer, and that's what I'm going to give him. So he reaches out, all that blah blah. Now then, I start getting messages from Nada, right? At least I thought it was Nada. all these messages of her like reaching out to me. Hey, I know what it's like to be on the outside. I want to tell you how he's doing, you know, blah, 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 blah. These are all his plans. He's going to buy land and he's picking up his car soon. And we're going to go here. And I'm not trying to step on your toes. He just needs a partner for this project and all this shit. Y'all, it was him. It was all fucking him. It was all him pretending to be her. Because she would not have sent me those fucking messages because she was of the understanding that I was this weak little sad bitch that was like all hanging from his fucking nut sacks. By the way, y'all, I'm not going to say his name. But if you go to my silly TikTok at transient Trina, it was on my chest. It ain't there now. Shit is gone. Thank God I did not fucking hold on to this motherfucker any longer. But yeah, so if you want to know his name, you can head on over to my fucking TikTok and it's right on my chest and my, you know, not recent TikToks, obviously, because I've had it since removed. But yeah, this guy's a piece of shit. So, yeah. Now, he sends me all these messages, whatever. I end up going over to his house to apologize for something I didn't do. Because at this point, I'm trying to, first of all, I sent Nada a really long, fucked up message. But my intent was, bitch, this is how he's showing up for me. Don't take nothing less. Don't take, and I say bitch with endearment. Don't take nothing less. Matter of fact, when I fucking left his ass and told him to fuck off and left, I sent her a message. I was like, hey, if you ever want to hang out, I'm down the train with you. I'm down to snowboard, whatever. We could be friends. And I was serious. He told her that, oh, I was still in love with him and that I wanted him back and all this bullshit. He actually used me, weaponized me for the last 2 years against her, has been having her think. He has gotten on her fucking social media, pretending to be me. Totally, you remember how I said I don't like being weaponized against them? Totally weaponizing me against this fucking woman. Like, he couldn't even, like, and you know what's fucked up? She would have loved him without the threat of me there. You know what I mean? He didn't have to do that toxic ass shit. He could have just said, Trina's history, let's love and be together. But he doesn't even have the capacity to do that because he needs to be nasty. Something happened to him. I don't know what the fuck it is. But he's stuck in a trauma loop and he's using all of us as, you know, whoever the original thing is. And he's just stuck in this fucking loop. And he's just bleeding all over all of us. And leveling us up. So I do have to be grateful for that. It is hard though, because had I known the truth, he would not have gotten anything authentic from me. Anything that was just pure, is because he didn't deserve it. He didn't fucking deserve it. He really didn't. But so yeah, so I'm, you know, going back and forth with Nada. I'm actually really happy because I'm thinking that it's really her. I'm like, okay, well, she's reached out, you know, blah, 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 blah. There's a little tone of shittiness in there, but I get it. You know, she looked at me as competition for a long time. And so I'm kind of expecting that, not really putting two and two together that it's his. So I go over there, you know, whatever. And he's like, basically trying to get back with me. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, no, let's establish some trust. I'm like, for what? I didn't come here to establish trust. I came here to just tell you, look, whatever wrong's done to you, I'm sincerely apologetic. I want to clear my karma with you. And then I need to go because I'm not interested in this anymore. This woman was down fucking stairs. And here's the thing. Once I left him, you know, and he moved her in that fucking day because I saw them in traffic, I was like, you know what? I was like sitting at home. I was like, damn, could he come back from this? Like, is there anything that he could do? And I was like, if he showed up at the fucking door with her head on a fucking stake and a wedding ring and 24 roses, I'd still tell him to go fuck himself. There was no redeeming. There was no redemption after that. Because now, at the end of the day, you're a fucking liar. And I'm not taking vows from a liar. I'm not taking a ring from a liar. I'm not giving myself to a fucking liar. I'm all the way good. I did not want to give him any of my energy no more whatsoever. And so I basically catapulted myself into the inner child healing. And I spent time working on that and just like working on myself. And yeah, he tried that little bullshit where he tried to get us, you know, back together. But I was like, look, I gotta go. It's like my son needs, you know, he's trying to get me to write stuff and, you know, whatever, because he knows the magic of the power of putting things in handwriting. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. Hey, did you tell your family? Because I didn't tell my family anything that you did. You know, did you tell your family about this? Like, pfft. Bro, I told my family your fucking history. I told my family that you got back with Melissa. Melissa's back in your life, and now I'm going to go. Like, I told my family I was wrong. I told my family you were not my soulmate. I told my family, like, I was fucking wrong. I'm embarrassed. Yeah. I have been singing this man's praises, acting like the sun shone out of his ass, and it doesn't. It's bullshit. Very, very, very pretty bullshit. You know? So, yeah, I left. He was a little irritated. I was like, can I give you a hug? You know, just want to be friends, whatever. Gave him a hug. I felt nothing. As soon as I walked out and closed the door, I just was like, thank you. Thank you to the universe, to God, to my guides and angels for allowing me to know that it was fucking over. This man had no pull over me anymore. It was gone. Whatever little, finding out about that past life, I feel like made that energy of despair that came from that past life, that other soul aspect of me that was still hurting for that other version of him that we didn't get to have completion with. That part of me got her completion. There was nothing else pending for me and this man in this life. That was a wrap. That was our story. That was our jam. That was it. I thought I still held this relationship on a pedestal, though. I thought, I'm going to write a book about this. I'm going to talk about how I met my soulmate on Tinder. I thought maybe, one day he would do enough healing work and then we could come back and maybe teach together. I had like these fantasies about us doing something together in this life that wasn't romantic, that potentially could help more people, because by this point, I've had a lot of readings and I do know that my purpose here is to be a channel. I've learned that my purpose is to be a channel, that my purpose is to be of service to people, that I'm, can read Akashic records to help people. There's all these things that I'm here to do, and he was just going to be in the way of that. They literally told me in the reading that there was so much that was unhealed with him that she said, there's so much unhealed with him that it's going to essentially hold me back. And so I sent my little message to Nada, telling her all the things that I thought that he was doing for me that he wasn't doing for her. I told her, don't tell him that I told you this, but watch him. Just fucking watch him. See if he plugs you into these plans that he was making with me. See if he fucking does it. Just fucking don't say it. I knew she was going to show him because, when you're with him, there's that loyalty. He creates that sense of like, it's me and you, whatever. And so I knew she was going to show him, but I wanted that seed to be there. And I hope to God she'd reach out to me, and fucking have a conversation with me. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I know that I could feel in her energy that she truly loved him. I still believed that he loved me, that he just honor bound had to, had choose her because all the things that she had done for him. That was the story that I was telling myself at that particular time. And so I still wanted the best for him. Shit, my camera died. All right, so I'm going to keep talking, even though I'm going to wrap up this episode. Because, my camera died. But, so I still was in this space of believing, and I prayed for them. I hoped that she was going to love him the way he deserved to be loved. I prayed for her that he would love her the way she deserved to be loved and not give her this half-ass bullshit where he's dumping loads in her and fucking driving her car with other bitches and shit. Like, I totally thought that, in walking away, that I was, wishing both of them well together. I thought that must be who he's supposed to be with, because it's definitely not going to be me if this is the dynamic, because that's just not going to be my story, you guys. I want someone's heart's devotion and I want to give mine to someone else. I don't want games. I don't want psychological manipulation. I don't want any of that. So that was what I thought was the end of this story. Until about 4 days ago, when I was sitting on my fucking floor in front of my fish tank here, looking for a payment from a client, actually. And I swiped down on my fucking email, and I had a new email from Nada Jimenez. And I was like, oh, shit. My whole body went into a sweat. And, what's next is going to be covered in the next episode. So I want to thank you guys for listening. And, I just want to say, man, if you're in love with somebody who's a fucking narcissist, because that's what I've learned here. I was in love with a narcissist. Just leave. Who cares about the dynamics, the fucking this or that or whatever? At the end of the day, this person is unkind and they don't fucking deserve your love. Just walk the fuck away. That level up in and of itself is going to raise your vibration so that that will be the lesson, because it's going to raise your vibration, and then better, more aligned things are going to come into your life. Don't talk yourself into staying, because it's not fucking worth it. Trust the way they make you feel. That is their way of communicating to you if they are good for you or not. So, thanks for listening, guys.